there, my name is Bisola Miriam, and this is another weekend. And I thought to share with you what I learned in the past week. Like, seriously, I didn't really learn as much as I did today, Sunday. And I just thought to share with you overall what I learned in this past week, and specifically the things that were revealed to me, in this week, during this weekend. So, more like I'll be talking about the things that I learned this weekend, but overall, I'll just share very broadly the things that I learned in the past week. So, I launched my book on the 31st of May, and basically, a few days after the book launch, guess what? Some people started sending me messages saying that my ex-husband was sending them messages and telling them how much of a terrible person I am, blah blah blah. My previous default would be to respond, like start going online and start posting and saying that this person has not stopped doing this, or like I would just respond somehow. I used to respond in the past, but I no longer respond. Even when it sends me very annoying messages, I no longer respond. And because I no longer respond, I'm not giving energy to that energy. And because I'm not giving energy to that energy, it does not magnetize. Magnetize in the sense that I'm not attracting the situation, or rather the situation does not stay longer. And what I'm telling you today is when you ignore certain problems, they would go away. There are some problems that you just need to completely ignore. In ignoring those problems, guess what? They would go away. But if you do not ignore some of those problems, they would never go away. Like if you keep getting worried, oh, why did this person what have I done to deserve this? At the end of the day, you would increase, or like you would, as you give energy to those kind of chaotic situations, they would multiply. I know that's not what you want, right? So when people say terrible things about you, when they are spreading rumors, when you heard that, oh, your employer is going to fire you, or like, it's not like you're not going to do the right thing or try to pray about it if it is something that requires praying about. But some situations that do not require praying about, you just simply look away, ignore, and these things will go away. And I must tell you why I also believe this. I was watching, just to corroborate what I just shared, I'm going to share something very, not completely not irrelevant, but somewhat humorous. So there's this movie by Funke Akindele called Excellency. The movie is on Netflix, The Excellency. And there was this Ajadio, that presidential aspirant who said he was going to, set up Ministry of Happiness. Such an hilarious, such an entertaining movie. And in the movie, he talked about how the election was not going the way he wanted it. People were using campaign of calumny, destroying his reputation, just trying to mess him up. And at the end of the day, the guy kept saying to all of his supporters, who, as a matter of fact, were his enemies, he kept saying to them, don't worry, don't worry. This situation would take care of itself. People were actually telling him to pay money so that the situation would go away. He said, at the end of the day, what do I gain by paying money for a situation that I shouldn't bother myself about? Of course, he didn't bother himself. And guess what? He was also not attached to outcomes. People were saying that, oh, his election was not going to end well because, the atmosphere changed. It was initially things were working in his favor, and then suddenly things were not working in his favor. And guess what Ajadi did? He and his wife simply said, let's just be happy. I would just wanted to help my country. And if it doesn't go that way, no problem. Let's just enjoy ourselves. And it just reminded me of how I wanted to help out in the African Student Association's election, and how for me, it was more of a process worth enjoying than a process that was meant to, end on make me feel pained. And I'm just saying this again so you know that sometimes when you are expecting something to go a certain way and it doesn't go that way, we're quick to feel bad, we're quick to just feel terrible. Sometimes even in the chaos, God, you would a lot of times, if you're sensitive, you will see the hand of God in very chaotic situations. I mean, I see the hand of God in my life. This is supposed to be the time of my life where everything should be going apart. I should be depressed, right? But things are working out in my favor. Isn't that the hand of God? So I'm just teaching you to know that, one, problems have a way of taking care of themselves if you don't give energy to it. Two, when you ignore certain situations, they would go away. And in those very chaotic situations, a lot of times you will see the hand of God. And let me also say that when you expect the worst, sometimes I think it's also good to go by this principle, which is expect the worst, but prepare for the best. So when you expect the worst, you're not afraid of failing or losing or that thing not working out. Like, I mean, I shipped my birthday dress and also pay for the shipment of the props for my events, and these things didn't arrive. I mean, I was feeling bad initially and I had to wear a black jumpsuit for my book launch. I remember that 2 days before the launch, I started asking myself, what if my dress does not get here? What will I wear? And so somehow the dress that I wore simply fit into the situation, made the pictures beautiful, and everything came out well. So I'm saying to you that, yes, expect the worst, but prepare for the best. And I prepared as though that was my best dress. And I also want you to prepare for life the way you would prepare for, like if things don't go your way, that's you knowing that the worst can happen, but have an open mind, right? When you have an open mind, you are also going to work hard or twice as hard so that things can go well. So again, expecting the worst means, maybe you need to prepare for an examination like the LSAT or whatever, or maybe you're planning to relocate abroad. One thing is you might feel as though, I hope this relocation thing will work. Like you start getting unnecessary apprehensive. That is you not expecting the worst or even preparing for the best. But when you're expecting the worst, you acknowledge the fact that it might fail, and you prepare for the best in the sense that if you work hard, it could work. So you know that yes, even after working hard, it might not work out as you wanted, but you will never give yourself the chance to have that you may never give yourself the possibility. You might never experience the possibility of things working out if you do not prepare for the best. I hope this makes sense to you. And lastly, this is the one that has been eating me up, and I said I was going to share it. I mean, like, I've been examining my finance and I've been cutting down some costs, trying to pay some bills, and asking myself, what are there some things that I do not need that I'm simply paying for? I mean, things that are completely irrelevant and I'm paying for them. Is there a way to take those things off of my plates so that I cannot pay for them again? Guess what? I had to, what did I have to do? I have to start checking my, Grammarly, my Restream account, my Xfinity account. And I had to message Xfinity and I was wondering, what have I done to be paying about $50 for internet monthly? I messaged them and said, I don't like the idea that I'm paying a lot of money for internet and I want to disconnect. Like I came out that way, and no company here wants you to stop doing business with them. So when I came out with that, like point blank, like if you cannot add to my income, don't take from me. So I said that to them and they were like, no, there's something we can do for you. There's actually a discount if you're on a 1-year plan, blah, 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 blah. And they were able to reduce my $50 Xfinity bill from 50 to how much, to just about 20 something. And now I think every month I only have to pay 20 something dollars for my internet. If I did not ask, I might never have received that. And so go ahead and ask yourself, are there certain things that you need to, maybe you need to ask for a raise at work. Maybe you need to say to a school owner that, hey, we don't want to pay this thing for our children again. Is there a cheaper alternative? That you're trying to go for a cheaper alternative does not mean you're trying to limit your mentality as far as abundance is concerned. No, but if it is something that is not worth spending a lot of money on, you can ask for a deduction or a discount. And if it is something that you require that you ask for more, you can ask for a raise. That's what I'm saying here. And I'm still going to talk to you about asking for a raise when I come later to talk about the the second part of my scholarship at the Crown Family School. So the other thing I want to share with you very quickly is the idea that so that was how I was able to just get a discount on my Xfinity mobile plan. And the other thing is, you see, sometimes when you are ready, the universe will align itself and things will begin to work out by themselves. Not because you're not doing anything, but because you're mentally alert and your spirit is sensitive. I've been talking about buying an iPhone 12 Pro, since forever. And this year or this month, recently I started thinking about owning an iPhone 12 again. I know there's a bigger brand, but I really specifically want the iPhone 12 Pro. And I've been shouting, I want iPhone this, just talking about it. But this year I was like, I really want an iPhone. I mean, for the kind of work that I do, I want a phone for business, and I simply want a phone for batching my content that I can take with me to school, take pictures, and just document very beautiful memories, and also use for private conversations if I don't want to talk or I don't want to have to go out with my main line. And I was just thinking about how I can get that iPhone. And shortly after I had that conversation with that Xfinity agent, guess what? They told me there was a promo that the iPhone that was for about 750 something bucks, that I could get $500 discount off of it. And they gave me an offer which would mean, and I was also planning to change my internet, my phone provider, like MTN, Glo, all those kind of lines that we have in Nigeria. I wanted something that would help me come to a different plan. And so I also was planning to migrate from the current phone mobile carrier to a different one, and it just simply worked out that Xfinity was also willing to help me do that, meaning they had this offer that if I buy an iPhone, I could migrate from whatever plan onto another plan, and I can just simply get that $500 discount off of an iPhone, and then I would only pay $200 for the iPhone. So at the end of the day, I mean, what I was looking forward to having simply worked out in a way that allowed me to pay just a little, which is something I can still afford. And the last part of this is, I'm still going to share how this idea that, see, sometimes don't try to aim low, aim high, because in aiming high, you don't even know that you might get what you're aiming so high for at a very low price. I mean, how can I possibly now have an iPhone that is $700 for just about $200? I mean, sure, it makes sense, could make sense, but that's because the idea that I might not have enough to pay for the very expensive things, but I've got a God that is the God of abundance, and if I can prepare my mind to have the abundance, it would just fall into my lap in a very supernatural way. Not because I'm not going to take action by reaching out, by talking to people, by asking questions, or even doing what I have to do, which is the easy thing, right? But if I don't do if I do nothing, I get nothing. If I think, oh no, this is too expensive, I might never get it. I can't afford this, I might never get it, right? And I can't even continue to keep talking about this. And now I know better to not try to go for cheap things, even though my money can only afford the cheap things. I know now to aim for the big things, because at the end of the day, I would get them for the price that I would have gotten the cheap things for. Because God is going to just simply make a way. Of course, if it is something that God knows or that the universe believes you deserve to own at that time. And if it doesn't come at that time, it doesn't mean it won't come. The last thing is, cheap isn't prudent. That something is cheap does not mean it is prudent. I'm going to wrap up this last part. I've got 30 seconds. That something is cheap does not mean it is prudent. I say that because I have had to pay a lot. I think about how much I've spent on carrying Uber, Lyft from place to place. I think about how much I've spent trying to, like at going grocery shopping at a mall which is close to my house, but which is quite expensive. And at the end of the day, I spend a lot of money shopping at a closer mall because I don't have a car yet, or I have had, as I was saying, I had to even pay, I pay more money at a grocery mall like at Publix where I shop, which is closer to my house, than when I go to Walmart. And when I go to Walmart, I get to have variety, and I even get to touch some other grocery, places around. And I think about the price at which I buy things at this shopping mall that is closer to my house, and the price that I would have bought items at Walmart. The only thing is, if I would shop at Walmart and some other distant places, I would need a car. Now, the cheap thing is, don't buy a car. Don't think about getting a car. Stay close to school. It is cheaper. And at the end of the day, when you need a ride, you don't get people to give you a ride to those distant shopping malls. And guess what? You have to go to the expensive shopping malls, which is the convenience. So the convenience or the cheap option or the safe option isn't necessarily financially prudent and isn't necessarily going to allow you have abundance. Just imagine if all the money that all the extra dollar that have been charged at Publix, and the extra dollar that have been charged for taking lifts from one place to another. I mean, I think about my receipts, or the receipts of all my transactions with Lyft, and I'm like, God, I've spent so much money on taking Lyft rides. And I'm like, God, what happened? If I had put those money together and saved them, or perhaps I didn't have to, or rather I had prioritized getting a car from the day I got to school, or from the day I got here, I'd put it as a big goal that was worth achieving, I would have saved more money. And I would even save myself more stress. The way we average people think is, I'm not going to plan for a big money. Let me just do everything small. I don't need to spend that much now. We don't need it now. Let me just buy MTN, 100 naira. Let me buy MTN, 10 MB. 15 MB. At the end of the day, you're paying little money. Guess what? You even end up spending more money than someone who pays a higher rate, or who pays more. And I've come to realize that here, when you take the big offers, you usually get fairer rates or better discounts. And I think about this. I think about, the idea of living in a house. Look at me, I stay in an apartment where I spend $600 every month. Just imagine if from the day I got to the US, I had this idea that, how about I own my own house? It's a big deal, right? But if I put myself in that vibration, I would have attracted someone that had a house to sell, and I was willing to sell the house to a student that would pay a certain rate every month. I mean, maybe the person would say, okay, you know what, you would own this house, but you'll be paying $800 every month, or you'll be paying $600 every month. And by the time you're done, you would have then paid off the entire money and you then have the house. And because usually we think, own house, okay, in me, when did I got here? Let's just be paying rent. Oh, that is how many of us will never become landlords, will never become rich, because we end up thinking that, like going for the cheaper options is financially prudent. But at the end of the day, you spend money. Think about someone who rented a house at Bodija, right? You pay a lot of money, or rent a house at Lekki. You never think of owning your own house, right? Because Lekki is too expensive. But at the end of the day, you end up paying so much money and you have no house. Whereas if you were open-minded about, I can have a house at Lekki, I can own a house in Alabama, I can own a house in Chicago, I can buy this. You can afford it, right? But being in that vibration will bring you opportunities that will help you manifest that big thing. I know that this might sound insane, but by the time I begin to manifest that, when my car get here, I'm going to come talk to you guys about how that happened without me having the money and then having the car. I'm still trying to sort some paperwork and some things behind the scene. When I buy a house, I'm going to remind you guys that I once mentioned this. When I say, oh, I now have a house at Lekki, I'm going to remind you guys that, hey, guys, this is what I was talking about. And now I now have a house at Lekki. When I do this, do that. But basically, these things are not impossible. You just need to have the right connection. But if you are not dreaming that dream, how can the universe open ways for you to just be in that vibration? Think about someone who is always talking about, I'm going to marry Oyinbo guy, I'm going to study abroad. It started from a dream. And that's why so many of us are here studying abroad. What makes us think that the way we dreamt about studying abroad, we can't dream about owning a car, owning a house, buying a property, or starting a business here, or setting up a very big business back home in Nigeria or other parts of Africa. I'm just saying all of this so you open up your mind and know that going for the cheaper option isn't necessarily the prudent choice. And today I have basically shared with you a couple of things. The first is, problems take care of themselves. 2, a problem you ignore have a way of going away by itself. 3, expect the worst but prepare for the best. 4, the idea that, sometimes you need to cut some costs so that you can use resources for other things. And if you don't ask, you might never get a discount. The other part is, cheap isn't usually prudent. That something is cheap does not mean it is prudent. That you aim low or for a cheaper plan does not mean it is the wise plan. You might end up even paying so much money when you go for the cheap plans. That's why you see that, you know what, I don't even want to start talking, and I'm going to interpret in Yoruba. So, ẹ̀yin tèmi, ṣàlàáfíà ni, orúkọ mi ni Bísọ́lá Mariam. Mo kàn fẹ́ tún bá yín sọ̀rọ̀ nípa nǹkan tí mo kọ́ lẹ́nu ọ̀sẹ̀ tó lọ o. Ṣàlàáfíà ni, ọ̀pọ̀ wà ń bí o, kò sí sáìní kankan. Ó ṣẹlẹ̀ pé nínú ọ̀sẹ̀ tó lọ, lẹ́yìn ìgbà tí mo ṣe ayẹyẹ ìwé mi tán, How to Kill Your Spouse yìí, àwọn èèyàn ní láti máa sọ pé ọkọ tí mò ń fẹ́ tẹ́lẹ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní kọ, ó ṣà ń mẹ́sẹ̀jì wọn lórí social media pé èèyàn burúkú níyàwó tóun fẹ́ tó lọ kọ, ó ṣà ń sọ oríṣiríṣi nǹkan. Àwọn èèyàn ṣà ń pè mí níwájú, náà ń send message lẹ́yìn. Ká ní tẹ́lẹ̀ ni màá ti fẹ́ máa hùwà, màá ti fẹ́ máa kí ló ẹni yìí tún ṣe báyìí fún irú èèyàn báwo lélẹ̀. Mo kàn jí láàárọ̀ yẹn, ọkàn mi mo rò bọ̀ mi ò tún àmọ́ mi ò fi gbogbo ara rò nítorí mo rán ara mi létí pé kí ni mo tún fẹ́ gbà nínú kí n tún wá máa rojọ́ tí ò ṣe nǹkan kan lórí nǹkan tí ò tó nǹkan kan. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí mi ò dẹ̀ ṣe kú kọbi ara sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn fúnra rẹ̀ bí afẹ́fẹ́ ló fẹ́ lọ. Ìdí tí mo fi ń sọ nǹkan tí mò ń sọ fún yín ni pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà kì í ṣe gbogbo wàhálà náà lè máa gbé sáyà. Èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ máa gbé gbogbo nǹkan sí ọkàn torí wàhálà ò ń tán. Téèyàn bá dẹ̀ tún ṣe rẹ̀ léṣe, wàhálà ò tún wà o. Ẹni kú ní ìsìn wàhálà ò tún wà. Èèyàn kú lónìí wọ́n tún máa jà sórí ogun, ṣé kìí ṣe wàhálà? Èèyàn kú lọ́la gan, ìyẹn ò mí pé wàhálà ò tán, kò túmọ̀ sí pé wàhálà ò tán nílẹ̀. So ilé ayé la ti bá wàhálà, ilé ayé náà la sì filẹ̀ sí. Èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ máa fi gbé nǹkan sọ́kàn. Lẹ́lẹ̀kejì, tá bá kọbi ara sí ìgbà míì fúnra rẹ̀ ni ó lọ bí afẹ́fẹ́. Ó dẹ̀ jẹ́ rántí eré ìdárayá kan tí mo wò lórí Netflix tán pè ní Your Excellency. Bọ̀bọ́ Àjàyí o tí àwọn èèyàn ń ṣoríṣiríṣi ìwà àbàjẹ́ sí nítorí ó gbé igbá ìbò. Ká tó wí ká tó fọ̀ nọ́mà tí ń ba arákùnrin jẹ́, ṣùgbọ́n torí ó ní ẹ̀mí pé tó bá máa ṣe é ṣe yóò ṣe é ṣe, tí ò bá ní ṣe é ṣe déédéé kò gbé sára. Ká tó wí ká tó fọ̀ ó mà dolúborí. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà a máa ń bẹ̀rù pé kí nǹkan má bàjẹ́. Tí ò bá bàjẹ́, wọ́n ní tí ta bá ń sáré ká mọ̀ kú àbí ta bá ń sáré kí mi ò rántí bó ṣe máa ń pòwe yẹn. Wọ́n ní tí a bá ń sáré ká má kú wọ́n ní ta bá ń sáré ká má tẹ̀, tá a bá tẹ́ eré ká mọ̀ kú látùn sá àbí bẹ́ẹ̀ náà kọ́. So tí mo gbìyànjú àti sọ ni pé tí nǹkan burúkú bá ṣẹlẹ̀ tàbí ta bá gbìyànjú tí ò bá lọ bá a ṣe fẹ́, ìyẹn ò túmọ̀ sí pé kí a wá bọ ara jẹ́. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà náà ó yẹ ká máa gbìyànjú ká sì tún ní lọ́kàn pé ó lè má lọ gẹ́gẹ́ bá a ṣe fẹ́. Ṣùgbọ́n ta bá gbìyànjú dáadáa láti ilẹ̀ bá a tiẹ̀ mọ̀ pé ó lè má ṣe é ṣe, ìgbìyànjú ọ̀hún gan lè wá ṣí ọ̀nà, ó lè má wá jọ́nà tá a rò pé yóò ṣì kú ṣí ọ̀nà mi àbí bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ́. Tí máa ro ọ̀rọ̀ ìgbésí ayé mi pẹ̀lú pé tí máa ro gbogbo ohun tí ń ṣẹlẹ̀ sí mi lásìkò yìí, ìgbà yìí gan ló yẹ kí gbogbo ẹ burú fọ́tò olúwẹ̀, ṣùgbọ́n èèyàn ò fọkàn sí gbogbo ohun tí ń ṣèyàn, èèyàn sì ń tiraka, èèyàn sì ń ṣe bó ṣe yóò ṣe é ṣe. Ṣèbó náà lèèyàn sì ti ń rí èrè kéèyàn fọkàn tọ́lọ́run, kéèyàn sì máa rò pé tí nǹkan ò bá lọ dáadáa àbí tí nǹkan burúkú bá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ síyàn pé tèèyàn ti báyàn nù àbí tẹlòmíì jàmọ́. Nínú gbogbo hílàhílo mo mọ̀ kọ̀wé, mo mọ̀ graduate, mo sì ń lọ iléèwé mo sì ń lọ sí iléèwé gíga. Nínú àwọn gbogbo iléèwé tí ń bẹ lágbàáyé iléèwé tí mò ń lọ ní ìsìn gan ó mọ̀ wà lára àwọn bó ní ìsinsù ilé Yorùbá o, àwọn top 10 nínú iléèwé tí ń bẹ ní gbogbo àgbáyé. Ọ̀kan nínú àkọ́kọ́ 10 iléèwé mi ń bẹ. Ṣèbí nínú gbogbo wàhálà yìí náà ni gbogbo ẹ̀ náà tún ṣe é ṣe. Wọ́n ní nínú ìkòkò dúdú náà lẹ̀kọ funfun tí ń jáde. Ohun rere máa ń jáde nínú nǹkan burúkú. Ẹ má ṣe gbàgbé o, tí nǹkan ò bá lọ déédéé ẹ fi yèdénú, ṣùgbọ́n ẹ má ṣèrẹ̀wẹ̀sì, ẹ tún máa taraka, ẹ tún máa gbìyànjú torí ìgbìyànjú yín gan ó wá ṣeé ṣe kí nǹkan òun wá lọ bó ṣe yẹ kó lọ, ọkọ tún dá lọ́nà mi tẹ́ẹ̀lì rò ti tẹ́lẹ̀. Ká tó parí, ẹ jẹ́ tún bá yín sọ̀rọ̀ ráńpẹ́ nípa nǹkan tí mo tún kọ́ ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tó lọ. Mo rí pé ibo làwọn owó mi wọlẹ̀ sí ná, pé àwọn nǹkan míì tí mi ò nílò tó yẹ kí n mọ̀ tí ẹ mọ̀ lò mọ́. Mo bá pe àwọn internet provider pé dákun ṣé ẹ lè bá ń ṣe kí ẹ fún mi discount ní ó làbúrò mọ́ san $50-something lóṣooṣù. Mo wá rí i pé ní ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ilé ìbò ìtẹ́ ẹ̀ bá béèrè ẹ lè rí o. Gbà tí mo béèrè tí mo lọ́ wọ́n fún, gbà tí mo lọ ra láptọ̀pù gan mo tún lọ́ wọ́n fún pé ṣé kò sí èyí tí òun tó yẹn ni kò sí lè, kì í ṣe pé èèyàn ò fẹ́ náwó púpọ̀, ṣùgbọ́n ìgbà míì èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ béèrè pé ṣé èyí tó tún èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ kéèyàn má béèrè fún nǹkan tí kò ní dá bíi ti èyí tó wọ́n. Èèyàn lè béèrè fún nǹkan tó wọ́n kéèyàn sì béèrè pé ṣé ẹ lè dín kù ni. Èèyàn ò lè torí pé èèyàn ń fẹ́ nǹkan tí ò wọ́n kéèyàn wá máa lọ fún nǹkan tí ò dá. Èèyàn sì lè lọ fún nǹkan tó dá kéèyàn sì sanwó kékeré fún, torí ẹni bá béèrè ọ̀nà kò ní ṣìnà tí mò ń gbìyànjú àti sọ nìyẹn. Àti pé téèyàn bá ń lọ fún nǹkan tí ò wọ́n yín ò túmọ̀ sí pé èèyàn ó tún rí owó fi pamọ́. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà gan àwọn èèyàn tí ò bá náwó níbi nǹkan, èèyàn ó wá tún máa rọ́ gbèsè san bí nǹkan míì. Ẹni tí ń pariwo pé òun ò ní ṣe insurance, òun ò ní ṣe health insurance, ṣé tó bá ṣàìsàn ní ìsìn tó lọ sí hospital, ṣé kò ní máa rògùn lẹ́ẹ̀mẹwàá? Ká ló ti ṣe health insurance tí ò náwó fún, ṣebí yóò mọ túnlé ayé rẹ̀ ṣe, kò ní máa náwó owó tó pọ̀ lórí àìsàn. Àbí èmi ní ìsìn tí mò ń gbé ibi mò ń san 600 lóṣooṣù. Ká ní pé ńgbà tí mo ti dé bí mo ti fọkàn sí pé èèyàn lè ra ilé ìlú yìí, èèyàn lè má rí ilé ọ̀hún rà nígbà téèyàn fẹ́, but ṣùgbọ́n yóò ti máa jẹ́ kéèyàn máa ronú bí èèyàn tó fẹ́ nílé. Èèyàn ní máa ronú bí èèyàn tí ó máa ṣe àgbélé tẹ́nàntì títí láìlọ́ ọlọ́mọ séèyàn di ọ̀gá tẹ́nàntì. Níparí mo tún fẹ́ sọ nípa pé ká ní pé ńgbà tí mo ti dé bí ni mo ti fọkàn sí pé màá tètè ra ọkọ̀ yọ̀gìnì, ọkọ̀ ayọ́kẹ́lẹ́. Mi ò fọkàn sí o. Mo sọ fúnra mi pé yóò wọ́n kéèyàn ra mọ́tò, kéèyàn mọ́ gbé yẹn sọ́kàn. Tí bá wá sí gbogbo owó tí mo ti ná nínú ibi tí mo ti máa ń ra nǹkan oúnjẹ gan, àbí lift àbí uber or private taxi téèyàn ń wà kiri, owó tó ń gbà lọ́wọ́ èèyàn gan téèyàn bá ṣepọ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ owó mà ní. Ẹ wá wò ká lólúwa rẹ̀ ní mọ́tò ni, ṣèbéyàn ò ní máa san owó ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ owó kiri. Tá bá wá ro gbogbo ẹ̀ gan, èèyàn ó ti kó gbogbo owó èèyàn ti fọ́n kiri. Téèyàn ò sì lè sọ pé nǹkan tó wọ́n yẹn èèyàn ríra torí pé èèyàn ò fọkàn sí. Níparí, ká máa ní lọ́kàn pé gbà míì tówó èèyàn bá lè ká nǹkan, téèyàn bá lówó díẹ̀, tọ́lọ́run bá fẹ́ ṣínà fún yàn, èèyàn lè rí nǹkan tó wọ́n jù rà níye owó kékeré, torí èèyàn ti nígbàgbọ́ pé n tó dáa yẹn òun ló tọ́ síyàn o, bó tiẹ̀ jẹ́ pé olúwa rẹ̀ ò lówó tó lè ka. Ẹ má ṣe máa lọ fún nǹkan tí ò wọ́n jù ní gbogbo ìgbà. Gbà míì gan àbùkù lèèyàn máa ń bá ń bẹ̀, ó sì lè má wúlò, ó lè má ṣiṣẹ́ gẹ́gẹ́ bí èyí tó wọ́n gan. Ire o, a tún máa sọ̀rọ̀ lọ́jọ́ mi. I hope you have learned a thing or two. Abundance is here, there is no lack, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.